it's so nice to get to know you all a little bit. I guess I have to introduce myself. My name is Isa, and I'm the founding director of the Foundation of the Sacred Stream. It's a school for consciousness studies in Berkeley, California. And I've been teaching, as I mentioned, I developed this process called depth hypnosis. And I've been teaching that and teaching the adjunct programs that support it. Energy medicine, applied shamanism, applied Buddhist psychology, and a variety of classes in the transpersonal studies realm, such as classes on relationship, classes on grief and loss, and the classes on the sacred feminine. And this class actually came out of a set of classes that I teach to midwives, doulas, nurse practitioners, and mothers-to-be. Two classes. One is called, the main class is the Tracking Spirit in the Birth Environment, where I help people try to hold on to the power of the Great Mother in the birthing process, no matter what operating theater they may wind up in when they wanted a home birth. I've written a book called Return to the Great Mother, which is about returning the power of the sacred feminine to the birthing process. I noticed it was exciting to see my book next to yours, Bob. I was like, in the bookstore.
Oh, great.
I was like, oh,
I have to read it.
so it's in the bookstore. And then I teach another class called The Initiations of the Sacred Feminine, which is about the way in which a woman's biology the moments in a woman's biology, such as her birth, her puberty, the sexual encounter with the other, the menses, menopause, and death, how each one of those biological events are actually portals into a spiritual initiation. And then we explore in that class our experiences of those initiations, and mostly people have had a little bit disrupted initiations along those lines, and we spend quite a bit of time repatterning that. So, it's funny because when we talked about doing this class, we do a class called the Sacred Masculine at the Sacred Stream Center, and I always want to teach that class, but I feel like okay, I cut my hair short, but I'm still not a guy, and I felt like Bob, I get to be Bob's proxy, like I'm the girl, but he really wants to teach it, so I can kind of be here. And so I'm hoping that sometime we'll do the Sacred Masculine and you can be my proxy, okay? So I was really, really excited to develop this class, as embracing the sacred feminine. And really excited to teach with Bob because Bob has so much knowledge and appreciation of the sacred feminine and has always been such a strong advocate for the power of women and has always had so much respect for women. It's something that really comes through in everything he says and does. And, having someone who is as well-known and as erudite and influential as Bob, advocating for women everywhere that he does, I feel like we're really, really lucky. And, I just so wonderful to be able to teach with you. So what I'd like to do is go over a little bit of the overview of the class, of what we're going to be doing, and then I'll give a little bit of a lecture, and then Bob will give a little bit of a lecture, and then we'll go to sleep, and then we'll wake up and come back. First of all, what we're going to be doing is we're going to try to understand what is the Great Mother, what is the Sacred Feminine. We'll be doing quite a bit of meditation and reflection, and so we'll be doing some meditations to the Great Mother. We'll be actually asking the Great Mother for a series of initiations so that we can hold her knowledge more fully. And the knowledge of the Great Mother that we're going to be focusing on here this weekend, and I'll be talking about all the different areas of experience that she mediates, but the one that we're going to be focusing on here is creativity. And we're going to be looking at something which I call the creative portal, and understanding what the creative portal is, what its nature is, what its requirements are of us as holder of the mystery of that information. And then we're going to look at managing the creative portals of your own life. I'm so excited that you're here. Yeah. I know all of you are looking for some kind of inspiration, and it's so exciting, to see all of you engaged in these amazing things. And it's like the most fun thing for me to be able to support people in doing what you're doing, like in creating something creative in your life. So hopefully this information will really be useful for you. And then we're going to look at understanding what dedicating ourselves and the power of our creativity back to the earth could mean. I'm excited about that. And to recognize that we can align ourselves with the great generativity of the earth, and in doing so, learning from the earth, and then being able to give back to her. So important. I'm sorry. Stop. But and to be able to kind of walk this path with you a little bit is really, really exciting for me. So that's what we're going to do. And Bob, do you want to give your lecture first, or do you want me to give mine first?
I want you to do it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about what we're going to be covering? Okay. So, what we are doing here this weekend is following the path of the mystery schools that have safeguarded the knowledge of the sacred feminine during this time of patriarchy that Bob referred to. And he referred to the time, before this patriarchy really got going. And there has been a safeguarding of the knowledge of the sacred feminine that has been held in the mystery schools that are best known to us in Greece and in Egypt. And actually, the mystery schools of Greece and Egypt, you may have heard of the Eleusinian mysteries, the oracles at Delphi, the cults of Osiris. These are the mystery schools both in Egypt and in Greece that actually, when examined, seem to all have very powerful parallels with schools of knowledge held in pre-Vedic India, and also with the cults of Mithra in Persia, and in a group of mysteries that were held in Sumeria, mystery schools that were held in Sumeria. And so what we are doing is we are kind of taking a little bit of a dive into that. We don't have anyone who is really holding this lineage for this particular lineage of this very ancient school of mysteries that has, that survived Sumeria, survived Egypt, survived Persia, survived Greece, and went way underground with the Romans and Christianity. And we really, of course, we can always access the Great Mother through our own inner channels, and that's really what we're going to be doing, picking up this thread and kind of blowing the embers of it and bringing it forward again. We're going to follow, we're going to do a little bit of initiation work that is all part of the mystery schools. Of course, in the mystery schools, this knowledge that was taught about the Great Mother, it was hidden. It was safeguarded. It was secret, and the kinds of experiences that the Great Mother mediates, the sacred feminine mediates, are the experiences, and you find this in all of these different mystery schools, the processes of birthing, the processes of dying, the processes of transformation and transmigration of the elements. All processes, all types of alchemical transformations. Always you find this esoteric knowledge of how to work with the elements in a particular way. And I teach a class, I teach a bunch of classes on elements, but there's a class that I teach in Hawaii where we really look at how the earth works with elements and learn more about it. I'll try to bring in information from there. And also, all the processes of creation are the areas that are held, this areas of study that are held in these mystery schools. So we will be, as I said, focusing on the creative processes primarily. But I'd just like to mention a few of the goddesses that you may be aware of that have been the subject of these mystery schools, some of them from the lineage that I mentioned, and some outside of this lineage. Of course, you have all heard of Isis, who is one of the most important deities in ancient Egypt. And she held, of course, many different roles, but she was very, very connected with the guiding of the dead and the processes of dying. And she was also connected with magic and healing. And then, I could go on and on. We could just do a class on Isis, right? We could do that. But I'll go on to other goddesses because one of the important things to remember is that there is not a culture that I have encountered, and I have, one of my first academic degree was in cultural anthropology. That doesn't mean that I know everything there is to know about cultures, but I've studied them a lot, and I haven't found one culture that does not have a mother goddess or this concept of the sacred feminine. So I think that's pretty powerful, and of course we understand there's a good reason for that. Sorry. So I'd like to just talk about some of the other cultures where you find the mother goddess. You have Durga, who of course is the Hindu goddess, who's not just the goddess of the earth, she is the goddess of the universe. Right? So she's not just like Gaia, not just Gaia that you have in the Greek tradition, who is the goddess and the creator of the earth. But you have Durga in the Hindu tradition, which actually, this is the female principle of creativity that is expressed through this goddess. And the study of her is to understand a lot about creativity. Nobody does gods better than the Hindus in terms of condensing all of these very cosmic concepts into something that is more reified or accessible through the nature of the god. And certainly we could study Durga also infinitely. Then we also have Nugwa, which is a very interesting snake goddess with sometimes with a fish head and sometimes with a human head that you find in the Chinese, ancient Chinese mythology. And she's primarily associated with generativity, especially around reproduction. She's, she mediates marriage, she mediates sexuality, and very, very involved with the generative sexuality. I mentioned Gaia, who's kind of, my peeps. And we spend a lot of time in the two classes that I mentioned, working with Gaia. We'll spend time, of course, working with her this session as well. And of course, Gaia is, the spirit of the earth, the goddess who created the earth in the Greek mythology. Then there's Coatlicue, who is the goddess of the Aztecs, the earth goddess of the Aztecs. She is sort of like a Kali figure where she destroys things and creates things. You've got that, transformational aspect going. Then we have Ninsun, who is, I love this goddess. She's a goddess from Sumeria who is a cow and who is conceived, this was a herding people. The Sumerians were herding, before they got organized. They were the first ones to organize and have writing and do things like that. But, before, and as they were doing that, of course, they were herders, and there was this great appreciation of the cow and everything that the cow offers. The people live completely from the benefits of the cow, and so the goddess in that of the earth is associated with a cow, which, and her name again is Ninsun. And then there's Asasaya'a, which is from the Akan people of West Africa, and she's often called the Mother Earth, and she's also connected with the teachings about truth. And I particularly like that understanding. I've just written a book called Coming to Peace, which is about conflict resolution, and a big part of the process of conflict resolution that we look at in that book are methods of conflict resolution from ancient cultures. And it's basically looking at, I basically combine the processes of the council circle with the insights from Buddhism, and how to maintain peace through Buddhist understandings. And but one of the reason that I love this goddess is because as the upholder of truth, if someone wants to swear something or to state that it is unequivocally, unquestionably correct, whatever they have said, they will lean down and kiss the earth in honoring Asaya'a in the Akan culture, which I just really love that idea. I think everybody should be kissing the earth every day. She kisses us every day, right? And then there's Danu. I can, if you want, I can make this available so it's easy for you. There's Danu, who is, of course, those of you that are of Irish descent, you've heard that name. And she's, again, a fertility goddess. Her wisdom comes through the wind. Right? Love that. I spend a lot of time listening to the wind here in Menla. There's a lot of wisdom in the wind at Menla. It's amazing how much wisdom there is here in that wind. I'm going to actually ask you to find a place here at Menla where you feel the power of the earth most strongly. And I'm going to ask you to do some homework there. You're not going to have a lot of time to do anything else, but of course you must go to the spa and do things like that. But you've got to you've got to find your spot to be with the goddess, and that I'll give you some homework as we get closer. Then of course there's Artemis. Those of you may know her as Athena. She's often depicted as a warrior and one who is very connected to the animals and who mediates the relationship between the animals and human beings. And you find Artemis in Turkey as well, and she's often called the Ephesian Artemis. So this is a very ancient goddess. This is pre-Greece, coming to us from across from India, Central Asia, Turkey, Iran, coming over to New York. And then, of course, there's Frigga, who, kind of held down sanity, during the time of the, Viking plundering and trashing of Western Europe. She's the goddess of the hearth, the goddess of the home, the goddess of childbirth. The culture of the sacred feminine mystery schools have always had this balancing effect on the affairs of men, as they have been. Not that the affairs of men are, of course we all have a little bit of problem with any kind of authoritarian structure that is unreasonable and excludes a lot of other people. But I'm not here to trash the patriarchy. I love men. I think they're great. I think that, but I think that they've kind of taken things a little too far sometimes, in terms of fighting and beating each other up and beating up the earth and things like that. So it's really nice to have throughout all these different cultures this counterpoint of the great feminine as this voice calling us back to the understanding of the creative generativity of the earth, calling us back to understanding the transformation and the transmigration of experience across the elements, and reminding us of this aspect of ourselves, whether we're male or female, that can align with her and learn from her and honor her in order to be able to bring forward more abundance, more peace, more generative power. And one of the things that I really advocate is actually yin power, or female power. Like there's been a loss of understanding about the nature of this power. In the 70s, we had women's lib, and all that. I totally really appreciate, honor, and respect all of the work that was done then, but there was a little bit of a misunderstanding about what the great feminine actually is, as everybody tries to be more male than the male. It's like, yo, that's not power, that's power over, we are power with. That is the nature of the great feminine, this inclusive power that wants that generativity and that creativity to wash over everyone who comes into contact with it in equal measure. And there's a strength in that, and there's a way to stand in that. And that is different than putting on a suit and, toughen up the guys down at the office, It's like, it's a different thing. And we're going to understand more about what that is by Sunday, I promise. All right, I think
what the Buddha was doing, in a way. Oh, that's okay. And, some images were coming in my mind as you were talking. And I remember that, you see the statues of the Buddha that are most well known, where he's sitting cross-legged, and he has one hand in his lap like this, the hand of equanimity. And the other hand is down over his knee like this and touching the earth. You know that gesture? That's called the Bhumi Sparsha gesture, the touching of the earth gesture.
What is it called?
What?
What is it called?
Sorry?
What is it called?
Bhumi Sparsha.
Oh.
Touching
I
the
just
earth.
didn't know that's what it was called.
And what it is, the drama is that the Buddha had been struggled with by the devil, whose name was Mara. And Mara was not like a kind of sort of devil from hell, like we have the idea. Mara came from a sort of heaven, I call it like a brothel heaven. Cat house heaven. And he is like a pimp, but he goes to tempt him. He can be ferocious also, he's a god. And so he had been challenging Buddha with violence and with seduction, and both had failed. So then his last shot with Buddha was, he said, and then he tried to offer him kingdoms and things, a little bit like Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, very similar. And then finally he said, well, what's the big deal? Who asked you to be Buddha? What's this thing about you're going to be Buddha and save all beings from suffering? Who ever asked you? Where do you get off saying you're going to be Buddha? So then Buddha then replied, he said, well, how did you get to be head Mara of the Mara gods, the demonic or devilish gods? And then Buddha said, well, I know when you were in some horrible state somewhere in hell, you gave something. You had a moment of altruistic thought about another devil, and you gave them something when they were suffering, some water or something. And so from that single act of altruism, you then ended up becoming the king of the Mara. So then the devil said, well, okay, you're my witness. That's my witness in my previous life. I did that. But what's your witness? And then Buddha said, then I, millions of lifetimes, gave my body, my life, my kingdom, my family, my head, my blood, a long list of giving things away to other beings, to help other beings, whatever they wanted. And so now that I've done all that for all these beings, from beginning this time, I'm going to be a Buddha and I'm going to help them become free of suffering. So then Mara said, well, that's a long list you have there. And who is your witness? So then Buddha touched the earth. And then the goddess of earth came out. You will sometimes see that in paintings. And Prithvi, her name, which is like the Greek Persephone. I like that you're tracing things back to India. I think that's true. So Persephone, or Prithvi, her name. So she started reciting the thousands of former lives of the Buddha. She said, I'm his witness. He did it here. I've been supporting the whole thing, she said. And in the more elaborate versions of Buddha's story, she came up, she had a chorus of 16 other goddesses, earth goddesses, and they all did a multimedia show of all Buddha's previous lives. And then, you have the idea of like the devil, Mara, doing like one of those silent movie evil guys, drat, and going away. He doesn't destroy Mara, he just sends him away. And so that image very powerfully came to